Hi guys! In today's video, I'm going to be adding too much of everything into slime and I really hope that you enjoy it. First up, we're going to be adding too much old slime into new slime, and this is one of my favourite slime experiments I've ever done. It was super cool to add it in because it looked so pretty when it was being poured, but because it was so pretty, I completely forgot it was going to be completely liquid and really sticky on my hands. So I poured this out onto the table to make it easier to mix, and to my surprise, it actually made it so much less sticky. It was kind of like the stage before the slime's fully activated, where it's pulling away from the sides of the bowl and it only needs a tiny bit more activator. And when I added it in, it looked like the perfect new slime, but I found that 3 days later it had melted down into complete liquid, so I really don't recommend this method. Next up, we're going to be adding too much butter slime, and this is so fun for me because I use a ton of clays. I use Daiso, Model Magic, and also Crazy Art, and I was really curious to see what texture this would give. When I saw the next one suggested in my comment section, I was like, this is never gonna work. People said that if you add toilet paper into slime, it will become a butter slime. So I had to test this out. I was really curious. And as you can see, I split up the toilet paper into 2 sections just so it'd mix in easier and not become lumpy. And at first, to my surprise, this actually kind of melted into the slime and didn't change the texture too much. So I added in 20 more layers and this became so creamy and just like a butter slime. I was so impressed, and it was so sizzly as well. One of my favourite things to do is add bath and body products into slime just because it gives a really unique texture a lot of the time, or it can end up being a disaster. But for body scrub, I knew this would become a really thick mixture. As you can see, it was very tough to mix in. But weirdly enough, when I started adding my activator, this kind of like deactivated. It kind of didn't froth up, but the slime melted. It was really weird. So I decided to add more glue just to try and save it and get an actual slime so I could show you the texture. And at first, it did come across like it was working. It was pulling together really nicely, and then it just kept melting. So I decided to look at the ingredients for the scrub, and it contains sugar, which melts slime down. So I decided to move on to my next method, which is adding too much clay into water slime. And this started off with some clear slime, some hot water, and then activating it. Then I decided to go in with some color, and I added pigment from Cosmic Glows, and this is beautiful. It's actually super purple in real life. I don't know why it comes up as this color on camera. And then when I added my Daiso cubes, it was really interesting for me because these split underwater. So there must be loads of pressure at the bottom of the bowl causing the Daiso cubes to do this. And what I found really interesting was all the cubes would just rise to the top, so you didn't really get to mix it in because every time you tried to push down, it would just rise again. So I added more clay hoping that it would kind of just build up and you could mix it in, but really this just ruined the prettiest slime ever. It just became a clay mountain and did not mix at all. Something I've wanted to try for the longest time is adding too much soap curls into slime, and soap curls are the crunchiest things. They sound so good on Instagram, and I just thought they would give the slime a really interesting crunchy texture. I found the long soaps so much easier to curl because they did it kind of themselves instead of you having to manual curl them, and then I decided to collect them and put them in the freezer because they weren't that tough and I wanted a good crunch. But this didn't work either. As you can see, they were natural soaps. I think this is the problem because they don't have like store-bought preservatives in them, but this did not crunch at all. They stayed as curls and they kind of just stayed in the slime. It made the slime so tough. The slime wasn't tough at all before. It was actually really sticky. So I was just really confused as to how this happened. But as you can see, this just did not work at all. After the soap curls were an epic fail, I decided to try this again because one of the most important ingredients of soap is glycerin, which is very commonly used in slime, sometimes to deactivate slimes with different formulas and sometimes to activate them more, just to make them a bit thicker. So I was really curious to see what pure soap would do in a slime mixture. And as you can see, it was pulling together quite nicely. It did take a lot more activator than I was expecting to use, but when I did finally pull it together, it kind of came out like a jiggly slime, which I really wasn't expecting. I was expecting it to either be melted or really thick, but it was neither. And I found when I was kneading it, it was pulling out kind of like a tough overactivated slime, but then when you were touching it, it was like a jiggly slime that could do with more activators. So this was really confusing, but really cool. And it also smelled gorgeous. If you've watched my videos for a while now, you know I do a lot of the adding too much series and I really enjoy doing it, but I've never added too much of everything apart from glue. So this is what I decided to do today. I added the most popular slime ingredients and also the accessories, the Java chips, foam beads, marshmallow beads, and also some fishbowl beads just to see what would happen. I've never added them into white glue, so I was really excited. And when I mixed it up, it was surprisingly thick. I was expecting it to be kind of jiggly and it didn't turn out like that at first. And when I added my activator, it activated super quickly because the shaving foam has a lot of bicarbonate of soda and there was a lot of that in there. So when I started to knead it, it looked a bit tough at first, but when I was playing with it, it was actually super soft, inflated a lot, and as you can see, it was a tiny bit loose, so not jiggly I would say, but kind of like thiggly, so like a thick jiggly, and it was really fun to play with. One of the most requested things in my adding too many videos is always adding too many stickers, and I was kind of like, I don't want to do this, but then I thought, you know what, it could be fun, and I just thought the colour would kind of run and it would become kind of gross, but I was actually really surprised because they looked really cute in the slime. It didn't do much for the texture, it didn't feel particularly nice to play with, but it definitely did look quite cool. The colours didn't run at all, and it was just, yeah, it was just kind of there. If you want your slime to be accessorized, I guess, instead of charms, you can use stickers if you want to. Adding too much lip balm is one of my most requested slimes of all time, and I haven't tried this just because I haven't found pretty enough lip balms, but recently I found these fizzy drinks lip balms. I thought they were so cute. There's 2 Fanta ones, a Sprite one, and 3 Coke flavors, and I thought this would just make it smell really nice, and I thought it'd be quite easy to mix in, but I was super wrong. The lip balms didn't melt really easily, so you had to squash up every individual piece very, very thoroughly. This took me about, I want to say like 15-20 minutes. It was a very long time, and the slime ended up looking like a white glue slime, but it was so clicky, and I actually really liked the texture of this. It was very smooth and moisturized. One that I've wanted to try for the longest time is adding too many jelly cubes, and I knew this would kind of absorb all the slime, but I was just really curious to see if it would all become super crunchy like when you have normal jelly cubes in slime, or if it would just absorb all the slime. So I decided to just mix it up, and it was sounding so good when I was mixing up. It was just so crunchy. As you can see, there was still loads of slime, but some had absorbed into the jelly cube, but you could still stretch it and do all the normal things. So I was like, this could possibly work. I was definitely not right though. As you can see, this just completely absorbed the slime. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it, and if you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and I will see you next week.